This podcast contains explicit language and content and is for mature audiences only.
Hey, you teenagers out there. If you're under 18, this show is more for your parents. So now that you have that mental picture stuck in your head, put some music on and get back to doing your homework.
We are a longtime married couple who's decided to chronicle our personal adventures and share our sex-positive discussions as we navigate our way through the swinging lifestyle.
Care to join us?
Hello, everyone. I'm Mr. Jones.
And I'm Mrs. Jones, and we want to welcome you to episode 14 of the We Got a Thing podcast. It's been a while since we recorded. I mean, it feels like fall now. I guess it's only been a few weeks.
Summer's over.
I know. So last time we recorded, we were at the beach listening to the waves crash on the shore right outside of our condo.
Right.
And now it's September.
I know, but it's still pretty hot outside.
It is. It was a beautiful day today. We went to a winery with some very wonderful but vanilla
Yeah.
friends of ours, and we enjoyed.
Oh, you know what? You should tell the story about the Facebook message you got.
Oh, so right. So we have friends from the lifestyle that we have gotten to know that they live fairly locally, and we have been to Naughty New Orleans a couple times and spend some time with them there. So the husband Facebook messaged me today and said, I got a friend request from this guy, and his name is such and such, and, you know, doing a little bit of research, I can see that he's Facebook friends with you. Do you know anything about him and why he would have possibly friend requested me? He said, I accepted his friend request because I thought I had worked with him previously or whatever. And then he said, and then I realized I didn't know him.
And this friend of ours is speaking of, made me think of it as truly a lifelong vanilla friend.
Oh yeah, Mr. Jones went to high school with his wife, and
reaching out to one of our lifestyle friends to make a connection. So it was a little bit strange.
It scared the bejeebers out of me.
But later in the day, he figured the connection, and it was something completely different. But
just a big coincidence.
Yeah. So
the world is a small place.
A little bit of a pucker factor. Yeah. So anyway, we had a good day with our vanilla friends.
Yes. We have a winery about 20 minutes from our house, and it's just a lovely winery, that just good wine, a great facility. And they had a nice wine festival today, and we just enjoyed the day outside.
Yep. So what we want to talk about first today, we've got in Keeping Up with the Joneses, we've got some, you're going to notice some changes in the way that we're doing music this episode. And gosh, music has been a lot of fun for me, but it's a pain in the butt because everybody has a different idea of what is legal and what's not legal, and
different interpretation.
Yeah, different interpretation. And, we have a license that I was under the impression covers this, and maybe it does. They're still telling me it does, but other people are telling me it doesn't. So we want to make sure that we're on the up and up, and I've been doing a lot of research. And really what it boils down to, in my opinion, is that the music industry is still stuck in the 1970s. And the licensing and all the requirements are basically, they were written a long time ago for record companies and radio stations. And podcasts weren't even around back then. And I think what it boils down to is that in order to protect the copyright, a lot of the regulations are set up that they think if we play 30 seconds of somebody's song on our podcast, that they're not going to buy it. They're going to listen to this instead, and that they're losing a sale. And the way that I think about it is, if you let me play 30 seconds of the song on our podcast, you're more likely as a listener to go out and buy it because you heard a little snippet of the sound.
Right. It's almost like free advertising for them, but they don't see it that way at all.
They don't see it that way. And, I've been running all around trying to find out who's right and who's not right. But anyway, ultimately, what we've decided to do in the meantime is we will continue to use our wonderful Billy Paul theme song, Me and Mrs. Jones, because that ties so directly into our podcast. But the rest of the music that you're going to hear this episode, we just went ahead and purchased some songs that we knew that we could use legally. And then I'm going to try to make sure that I have the correct rights to continue to use the theme song. So anyway.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
The fight's not over.
A little bit of a boring opening here, but you're going to notice the changes, and I'm a little disappointed because I do like picking out the music based on, the theme of the podcast, but hopefully I can do the same thing with the music that we do have. So we also wanted to talk about, we are going to be, what brought this up is that Jim and Jen from The Hidden Swing are going to be doing a podcast on International Podcasting Day, which is September 30th. And they asked all of their podcast friends to contribute. And a lot of the questions had to do with how well you know your listeners. And so we went back and looked at some emails that we had gotten in the past and noticed that So I came up with my own methodology because I wanted to figure out.
Mr. Jones is into data.
Yeah. I wanted to figure out what percentage of listeners actually sent us emails, compared to the overall downloads that we have. And so what I calculated is that less than 2% of you are sending emails in. And that's a neutral statement. But what we've noticed, is a lot of our emails, people say, we don't want to bother you, or we don't want to take up a lot of your time, or a lot of them, many of them say, we don't want you to think we're stalking you.
Right. We hope this isn't too stalkerish.
Yeah. And I think maybe it's because the type of people that listen to us, maybe they think that that's the perception, but I want to dispel that, right now, because believe me, less than 2% of you, we don't, this is probably maybe 2 or 3 emails a week that we get.
I think we maybe get a little bit more than that, but we love getting your emails. And I mean, so we'll sit down to dinner and it's just the two of us for dinner. And Mr. Jones will be eating and he'll say, oh, as soon as we finish eating, I got an email to read you. And he just loves it when he has an email to read. Right. That's come into We Got a Thing.
And what we want, the emails that we're looking for really, to get back to Jim and Jen's question, is we want to know you. We want to know our listeners. So if you want to tell us what you think about the podcast, of course, that's fine. We love to read those too. But we really love the emails that people tell us about themselves and they're a little bit about their journey and really where they are. And that helps us to understand who is listening to us. And if we know more about who's listening to us, I think that'll help us plan our podcast in the future so that we know that we're putting some content together that's interesting to our listeners. So,
well, it helps us know our listeners, but it also helps us in our own lifestyle journey.
Yes.
Just to hear people, have the same silly things happen to them that's happened to us, or just to know that you're not alone out there, because sometimes you're experiencing things that are just so foreign, right, to your perception of how normal life goes, and to get an email from a couple that sounds very similar to you as far as their the point of life that they're at, as far as being empty nesters and, right, still working on their careers and at the same time doing this crazy lifestyle stuff, and right, they're having the same goofy things happen. It's just, right, it's kind of, entertaining and comforting and, yeah, and just reaffirming that, that we're doing the right thing and we're all having fun.
Right. So what we're saying is, rather than wait till the end of tonight's episode to say email us, we're going to put it right out front. We want you to email us. And we're going to read a couple of snapshots at the end of this episode that came in from a couple of listeners. So you can email us and tell us what you think about the podcast. You can email us and tell us a little bit about yourselves, or you can email us a snapshot and we'll try to get it read. We'll read it on one of our episodes. So that kind of, speaking of Jim and Jen,
we got to meet them face to face.
Yes, they were one of the last podcasters that we haven't met yet.
Yeah, they weren't able to go to Naughty New Orleans this year, but the very week we got home from New Orleans, they happened to be... It was the day
after we got home.
Yeah, it was the day after. They were in town on a business trip, and we drove up and met them for dinner and had such a good time getting to know them.
They are exactly like they sound. If you don't listen to, and I'm sure you do, The Hidden Swing, just a genuine couple. We had so much fun with them that evening, and they are just as pleasant in person as
I
they
know.
are.
They are so much fun to be with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you, Jim and Jen, for taking time out of your trip to have dinner with us. We really had an enjoyable evening.
We went to this like Irish pub, and it was in the old part of town. So it was kind of like a 3 or 4 story townhouse kind of deal. And they must have known because they sat us up, and like every level had a bar. It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So we ended up in this room.
Yeah.
And it was just us and the server, who was also acting as the bartender.
Right.
And it was this townhome that had all these beautiful original wooden floors. So there was nothing to absorb the sound.
Yeah.
And you put 4 lifestyle podcasters in the same room.
Yeah, but I'm gonna call out Jen because a couple of times she got really excited, and Jim's looking at her, and she looks at him and says, "Oh, am I being too loud again?" But I mean, the walls were wood, the floor was wood.
There was nothing to absorb the sound, and we were laughing so hard. And Jen would get excited, and she would be talking really loud, and then some of the words, that we say when we're talking about our lifestyle experiences might turn some heads, but we didn't care. We had fun.
Right. We had a great time.
They didn't kick us out, so it must not have been too bad.
No. So it was nice to meet you guys, Jim and Jen, and have dinner together. And so that you don't think this first segment is all business.
We've had some pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
We did last weekend.
So we met a couple last spring. And between our crazy schedules and their crazy schedules, we weren't able to get together with them for like an official, let's chuck each other out dinner until July. And we did. And we talked about that on the podcast.
Yeah,
We found this really intimate restaurant.
French restaurant in downtown DC.
Yeah. And it had the red velvet curtains, and they tucked us away so we could have private conversation. And
right.
So that was a really, really fun dinner. So we finally managed to get together for a full evening, a more private evening this past weekend.
Right.
And we actually spent the whole afternoon and evening with them.
Yeah. And I mean, before we get into the details of the evening, I think the thing that made this weekend really a lot of fun was there was a lot of communication ahead of time. So we knew they were interested, because sometimes, like we had a couple cancel on us a couple weeks ago, and when you send somebody a message and then like 2 or 3 days later they reply and you say, I'm not sure if they're really into this. Well, this couple was emailing us, texting us, and we were replying, and we could tell by the back and forth that they were really committed to to coming down. And we, we had the evening, and we'll talk about the evening specifically, but it just flowed. From the time that we met them at the winery until when they left to get here to go home, there was no awkward pauses. We transitioned through all parts of the afternoon and the evening, and it was just it was a really fun time. I think we're getting a little bit more experience under our belt. Yeah,
I don't think we're so uptight about things anymore, and we just are able to roll with the punches a little better.
Right.
But yeah, we started out in the afternoon at a winery and did a tasting together, and then got a bottle of wine and sat around and talked. And most of that was vanilla stuff. So I guess that's kind of a typical way to start a lifestyle evening. Yeah. So, and then we came back to our home and had a cookout and had a nice dinner. And
our empty nest.
Yes. Thank goodness for our empty nest. So we had a nice dinner, and then things just kind of transitioned. I got out my card game again.
Yeah, so we cooked out and we had more wine with dinner.
Yeah.
And then you got the card game out and you ladies changed.
And they had never had Liqueur 43 before.
Oh, right.
Oh, my goodness.
Right.
So, yes, I was able to initiate them to Liqueur 43.
Right.
My pleasure.
And so we got the card game out, and that progressed. We usually only get through 1 or 2 cards per person, and then that's it. But that's okay. That's the job of the card game.
And everybody says, this game is dumb. This game is dumb.
Not everybody.
Well, you do.
Yeah, I do.
But the game always has led to very sexy fun.
I know, but what I'm saying is we need to go through there and throw the dumb cards out.
But the dumb cards make for humor.
Right.
I mean, and they're funny.
Yeah. So anyway, we were downstairs in the family room playing the card game.
Yeah. Well, she and I, after dinner, you cleaned up, which was wonderful. And that gave other lady and I time to go upstairs and slip into something more comfortable. So we did that, and you guys did too, right? After
Yes.
you finished cleaning up, you guys
Yep.
Undressed a little bit and got a little more comfortable before we played our game.
Right. And you ladies are so predictable. The first card she drew, she decided to give me a blowjob. I had my lingerie on for about 30 seconds.
Well,
and you're pulling it off.
I know.
Why do I even bother? So that's how the game started.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there were a couple like back and forth questions, but yeah, the first action card,
Yeah.
she had to give you a blowjob. So her husband and I watched for a while.
She didn't have to. She chose to.
I'm not saying that it was a task.
Okay.
Yes. She got to give you a blowjob.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I had to whisper something sexy into her ear.
Yes.
Yeah. And I never told you what I told her.
Actually, no, you never did.
No, I told her what sexy legs that she has.
She does have nice legs.
Yeah.
She has nice everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does.
So her husband and I were just sitting on the love seat next to each other.
Cheating.
Just kind of, well, I mean, you know, a blowjob is fun to watch, but after a while, it's same old, same old. I mean, we got a little bored.
Right. Right.
What were we to do?
Right. So we quickly realized that we needed to get upstairs, or the downstairs we were gonna end up on the ceramic tile again.
I know, and you know, I'm just not as young as I used to be. I really appreciate a nice mattress.
Right. So we came upstairs and we had an extra bedroom that we had really prepared. See, we're getting better at even hosting. I mean, we
Yes.
had prepared the bedroom and we had the candles and the music and everything already.
Well, we've tried different ways of doing it, so
Right.
we know what has flowed well, and
Right. And bottles of water.
Yes, yeah, you had bottles of water. You were very prepared, honey.
Yes. So, and you ladies started out together,
We did.
and that's always amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was very fun.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what you two were doing. Were you just standing with your arms crossed watching? What were you two doing?
Yeah,
She and I kind of took up the whole bed.
At first we were watching, and then I went around on her side of the bed and I was rubbing her back and her legs, and then he was doing the same to you. But I don't think you guys really noticed that much because you were pretty into each other.
Well, at first I was kissing her and I was kind of on top of her and kissing her. And then I asked if I could go down on her and she said yes. So
Right.
I think when I started working my way down her body is when
Yes.
you saw the opportunity.
Yeah. And she's an amazing kisser. And I guess what I mean by that is she was really passionate with her kisses. I've been with other women who are good kissers as far as technique goes, but this lady was really getting worked up through kissing. Again, that's why we don't like the no kissing rule.
That's true.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed kissing her.
I enjoyed kissing her husband.
Yeah, so then after you two were finished, she went down on me, and I think you went down on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was really, really nice. I think I had to slow her down a bit.
You say that a lot on this podcast.
I know. Hey, I'm just being real. No, I didn't have to stop her. I just slowed down a little bit. I'm getting better at like knowing my environment and what to look at, what not to look at, and how to control myself.
Or as Paige says from Swinger Diaries, you got to think about kittens and baseball. And
I don't do that. No. So yeah, she gave me a blowjob, and then I think I went down on her, and then we ended up full swapping.
Yeah. It was a pretty easy transition.
Yeah. And that's the first time that we've full swapped with a couple, the first time that we've played.
Right.
So, and that says, I think, it says a lot about them because we were really comfortable with them.
Yeah, they were very
and it
easy
was
to
a
be
lot
with.
of fun. But it also, I think, really a good measuring stick for the experience that we have now, that we're to the point where we're comfortable enough doing that if it's the right couple, where before we kind of had this unwritten rule that, well, let's soft swap first.
Right, because there's couples that we have soft swap with in the past that, with the experience and comfort level that we have with our whole place we are in the lifestyle, that might have turned out differently. It was us. We weren't ready. It wasn't that we weren't attracted to other couples. I just think now we have gotten into a place where you and I have learned to read each other better, and we kind of trust our instincts a little bit more.
Right.
Whereas before we would always kind of hesitate.
Yes. And when we full swapped, that's right. I was in her doggy style to begin with. And I think you all were missionary.
Yeah, we started out missionary. We went doggy style for a little bit, and then we finished missionary.
Yeah, and then after a while, doggy style, we went missionary. And, I started talking, I had told in the game, that's what came up. One of the questions was talking sexy. And I said, oh, well, I'm really not good at it. Well, I started talking when she and I were full swapping. I don't even remember what I was saying, but she was talking back to me. It was pretty hot.
You guys were into it.
Yeah, we were, what? You know what? Now that you said that, remember a long time ago, and I think maybe it was episode 5, and we were just talking about full swap, and you said, I can't wait, or I'm looking forward to seeing you get lost in another woman. And for the most part, I was pretty lost because You're
getting very good at that. Yeah, I don't think you were worried about me
one
bit.
I didn't look your way that much that night. So I was really into it. It was fun.
And I was being well taken care of.
Yes.
Yes, I had no complaints.
Right. And then when they left, they accidentally left some of their clothes here. So
I know. So we're holding their clothes hostage.
Yeah. You have to come back down and get them.
It's going to cost.
Right. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. That's pretty much keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
So when we come back, we're going to get into our topic tonight, and that is Mrs. Jones on the hot seat.
Uh-oh. Welcome back to segment 2, and we've titled this episode Mrs. Jones on the Hot Seat. And the whole backstory behind this is, we've told you that we were at the beach a month ago on vacation, and we had taken our podcast equipment with us because that was the week that we did our podcast with Paige and Penn from Swinger Diary. So we had our stuff with us, and completely unrelated, one night Mr. Jones and I were sitting out on the deck of our condo, which overlooked the ocean. And it was just one of those amazing nights with lots of stars and the waves crashing. And we had been out to dinner and we had had a cocktail or two or however many. And so we were sitting out on this deck and we were just enjoying the tranquility. And all of a sudden, Mr. Jones and I just kind of started having a conversation. And he asked me a couple questions about my feelings about the lifestyle.
Right.
And I would answer the question, and then it would be kind of another quiet, peaceful pause. And then he'd ask me another question, and I would kind of share my thoughts on it. And this went on for like an hour at least.
Right.
And about halfway through, I'm thinking, he's interviewing me. It was really weird. But it was, we had the most amazing conversation, and it was just so unplanned and just really kind of flowed so naturally. And the next morning we were taking a walk on the beach, and I said, it is so sad that somebody didn't hit the record button last night when you and I were talking, because we had the most profound conversation. And Mr. Jones said, well, we could recreate it if you'd want to do that. We have all of our equipment here. And I'm not going to lie. We tried once and it kind of flopped. Right. So then we tried it again. So what we're going to share with you in just a minute here is a conversation that we recorded at the beach. I think it was take 2.
Yeah.
Just kind of tried to recreate that just really natural conversation we had that night sitting out on the deck. And what it relates to is we've been in the lifestyle, for about 1.5 years, but we've really only been active about 1 year now. I mean, we didn't really get the nerve to actually dive into things until last summer. So we had had so many positive experiences over, the past few months, and it kind of all culminated at Naughty New Orleans, and our beach trip was only like a week or two after Naughty New Orleans. So we were just kind of like riding this high and realized that we had kind of arrived, I guess, as far as being in the lifestyle where we weren't so uptight about things anymore, and we weren't so worried about damage on our relationship anymore. And so if you have a few minutes, you can take a listen and hear some of our thoughts.
Mrs. Jones, you're on the hot seat.
Oh, no.
Are you ready for this?
I don't think so.
Good.
Here we go.
It'll be more real this way. I have a few questions for you.
Okay. We've been married 31 years. Certainly I have answers.
I know, but this lifestyle creates a whole lot of opportunity for new questions.
Obviously.
Yeah, and we asked a lot of these questions to ourselves a year to a year and a half ago.
I imagine the answers might be different by now.
Right. That's why I'm asking you the questions.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
I think so.
Okay. First question. Mrs. Jones, in what ways have you grown or changed over the past year because of being in the lifestyle?
Well, I think I'm more confident in various situations. I'm more confident about my appearance because I kind of have to be. I think when you're in the lifestyle, you just kind of have to accept who you are and just own it. And yeah, I'm not 20 years old anymore. And yeah, I've had 2 kids, and we always find imperfections with ourselves, especially with media today and Photoshop. And yeah, your brain knows that the picture's been Photoshopped, but when you look in the mirror at yourself and there's no Photoshop, it's just hard to swallow.
So what's taken place though, specifically in the lifestyle, that's helped you have a different attitude towards the confidence and the body image things?
Well, I think once you find a couple that you are attracted to and that is attracted to you, I think, once you engage and play with them, I don't really notice a lot of details about the woman's body or the man's body. It's the overall impression of them, and it's their body language, and it's their personality, and it's their self-confidence. So, and the self-confidence really, I think, is a huge part of it. Self-confidence is sexy. And I think I've learned that. So I've just learned to let go of the little criticisms I have about myself appearance-wise, and just kind of, and it's not easy, but I've learned to let that go and just be who I am. And if people find me attractive, that's great. And if they don't, then it wasn't meant to be anyway.
So just telling yourself you need to be more confident, really, it sounds like that's not helpful. It's actually going through situations in the lifestyle with other couples and being told you're attractive by other men and other women. The actual experience of it has helped to help you to reframe that.
Right. And that carries over into my professional life as well. I mean, I think I interact better with people now, and I think I'm, when I make a decision or I have an idea, I think I'm more confident about conveying that to other people now.
Right. Because
you and I do a lot of communicating now, and we did before, but I think our communicating is much more detailed. I know we're going to talk about that. I'm sure you have a question for me regarding communication, but I think because I have to be thoughtful about the way I respond when we communicate, that helps me be thoughtful about how I interact with other people in all areas of my life.
Plus you have the sexiest voice on iTunes.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't think that really matters in other areas of my life. But
Okay, so along the same question about how have you grown or changed, what about being with other men? I mean, there's this idea before we got into this that we each have to get our heads around what it's like going to be with another person and touching them and allowing them to touch you and being sexual to a certain degree with them to the degree that you're comfortable. So now that you've been with a few men, and I'm talking about men specifically.
Okay.
How has that changed over the past year as far as the idea of just being with other men? now that it's a reality?
Well, I mean, it's not as scary as I thought it would be. It's not as life-altering as I thought it would be. I mean, after especially in our situation, we got married so young. And yeah, we had both been with other people before we got married, but, nothing too serious. So, for, 30 years or whatever, we were only with each other. So I thought, oh my gosh, it's just going to be so mind-blowingly traumatic to be with another guy after only being with you for so many years. And honestly, I wasn't really looking forward to the work involved in processing how I was going to feel about that. I was almost kind of dreading it. And now that it's happened a few times and it's been fun and you've reacted in a positive way and I've reacted in a positive way and the other couple has been, fun and lighthearted about it, I realized I was making way too big of a deal out of it.
Right.
Because I think we have the right attitude about it. We're not being secretive and I'm allowed to tell you when I'm attracted to another guy, and I'm allowed to tell you that he made me feel really good. And I'm allowed to tell you that he did something different to me than you've done before and that it was really hot. And I tell you that not because I want you to recreate that, because I like what you do to me, but I just get to tell you these naughty little things that I've experienced in the lifestyle. And it's amazing that I can tell you that and you're like turned on by it.
Yes. I'm turned on. I'm all right with it, as you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how would you describe, and I'm doing air quotes here, your thing in lifestyle terms? What is your thing as of like right now?
So you mean over the past year, as we've kind of like, dipped our toes into different ways of swinging and ways of meeting people? Or
No, I think this is more of a present day question.
Okay.
Because or you can tell me how your thing has changed from when you first started to what it is right now. Like, what is your thing? What about the lifestyle? What is about you that you would say if somebody said?
Grief. I kind of have to confess that when we started our podcast, I asked everybody, we got a thing. What's your thing? I didn't know what my thing was.
Right.
That was a sham.
Well, it went with the words of the song, right?
It did.
Yeah.
And it was sexy. So yeah, you're right. I think I have a thing now. I am having so much fun when you and I can meet another couple and we can find that couple that we're comfortable with and that we're, everybody has an equal attraction for one another and nobody takes it too seriously. And whether it ends up being, soft swap, full swap, if there's girl play, that's great. If there's not, that doesn't even bother me either. I just want to have fun, sexy time with another couple. I don't need to have this serious, crazy, intense sex. Sometimes it turns into that, but I want it to start out as fun. I can have crazy, serious, intense sex with you.
Amen.
That's right. And we do, and we're pretty good at that. So we don't need assistance in that aspect of our sexuality. Mm-hmm. What we just want to do is have fun and make new friends and
right.
And just, kind of use our new friends as foreplay for what we're going to get to later when we get to reconnect.
Right.
So I guess that's my thing. So do you want me to say what my thing is not? Or are you going to ask me that later?
No, go right ahead.
So, we've been doing this we've been active for about a year now. We've been, I guess, in the lifestyle for a year and a half, almost 2 years, but really only hit our stride in the past year, I guess.
Right.
So as I see us moving forward as a couple in the lifestyle, I really don't have any curiosity about playing in a separate room. I like to be with you when we play with other couples for two reasons. I know you like to watch me have sex. Mm-hmm. And so not only am I playing with a beautiful woman, or I'm playing with this hot, sexy man who's making me feel all kinds of crazy things, I know you're watching it. So that it's like double the pleasure. because my body is being taken care of, and stimulated and, played with, and that's fun. But then at the same time, I know I'm like just driving you crazy. So I like that. And then to make it even better, I get to look at my incredibly handsome husband who is so lean and fit, and you're a very graceful person. No matter what you're doing, your body moves very gracefully. And when I watch you have sex with somebody else, it sounds corny, but I think it's just beautiful, and I love to watch it. I can't do that if we're not in the same room. Right. So, and the whole, I don't know, the threesome thing, I know we've talked about it, and I'm not opposed to that, but I'm not, I don't know. I just don't really feel myself wanting to go to the work of pursuing it, because I think it's kind of a lot of work to pursue finding a single guy or a unicorn,
right?
That's going to kind of meet our needs personality wise, I guess, and motivation wise.
So I want to go back to something that you said in the question before about your thing and where it fits in our lives. So you've mentioned a few times in podcasts, and to me, you use the word balance.
Right.
Can you describe how do you think your life is in balance? What role does the lifestyle play? And you can use a number, a percentage, however you want to describe it, but to keep the balance that you need in your life, how much of that is lifestyle related?
I don't think I can come up with a percentage, because you and I don't really say, we're going to play every other weekend, or, we're only going to have sex with other people once a month, or, oh, we really are having fun. Let's try to find something to do every single weekend. We don't do that. It kind of ebbs and flows. And, for those of you listening, this is the end of the summer, and Mr. Jones and I are at the beach for a week. We rented a condo right on the beach, and it's kind of in the quiet part of Myrtle Beach, and it's just heaven down here. And I told Mr. Jones that we were going to be exclusive this week. And I really didn't want to play with anybody this week. We've had 3 major vacations this summer. We've been very fortunate. We were able to go to Desire at the beginning of the summer. And obviously that was a lifestyle vacation. And then we got to go to New Orleans last month for, 4 days of insanity, crazy, fun, sexy times. And then we got to come to the beach at the end of the summer. And we've had 2 amazing lifestyle vacations, and they've been so much fun. But I needed a week to just have you all to myself. I think that's important.
I'm not complaining about that.
So I can't give a percentage, because, we have a couple dates hopefully lined up next month. And then, we've got another lifestyle event in October. And, so we have stuff in the pipeline, I guess. But, as far as, every other weekend or whatever, I don't know. And our podcast takes a lot of our time.
Right.
And, we both enjoy that, and we're both willing to give that time. So, you factor that in, and I think we just need to keep it real.
Right.
Because we have professional lives, we have family, we have a big family, and they all live in our town. So, or not all of them, but enough of them.
Right.
So, and we get to see them often, and that's, very important to us. And we have vanilla friends that are very dear to us.
Right.
Mr. Jones thinks they're a little boring, but they're very dear to us.
Well, I didn't used to think that. Excuse me, but I do now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. To shift gears a minute. Okay, we've been married 30 years, almost 31 years.
Yes.
I've heard the term, and we've used this term. I've heard younger folks in the lifestyle say this, and I've heard other podcasters say this. The term monotonous, or the term, we've been having sex with each other exclusively for 29 years, and then the past year with other people. How do you answer the question when somebody says, well, how in the world did your sex life stay? How did it always stay the way that it is now? Did it ever become monotonous? Through that many years, how could you possibly not get bored? How could you possibly not fall into a rut? how would you respond to statements like that?
Well, honestly, we didn't really know what we were doing when we got married as far as our sex life went. We had pretty vanilla sex. Sometimes we would get carried away and do some crazy stuff. And I remember when we would do something a little out of the ordinary, you would say, "Hey, we got potential."
Right. Right.
And that was fun. We had a lot of normal sex, and we went through periods in our lives where we didn't have sex super often. I mean, we didn't stop having sex ever, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, we haven't had sex twice this week. We're not normal. We've got to have sex one more time just to check it off the list. It would just kind of ebb and flow. I mean, we had children and we were both working and commuting, long commutes, and our kids were in daycare, and then they were involved in stuff at night. So we were busy, and you tend to, really have to struggle to keep those priorities straight. It really wasn't until our kids graduated from high school that we were able to, refocus and really make each other a priority. So while our sex life wasn't bad at the beginning of our marriage, it wasn't like, crazy lifestyle sex. I don't know. But I think the thing is you and I were committed to our marriage. And, that whole for better or worse thing stuck. And, being parents and full-time professionals and homeowners and all that is, it's stressful. So you just kind of have to sometimes ride through those periods of your life.
Right.
Where, yeah, you want to make each other a priority, but you really, have other responsibilities that you have to balance. And then the reward is you raise these great kids that become self-sufficient, and then you get to turn back to each other and say, "Hey, I remember you.
Right.
You're sexy."
Right. So then tagging on to that, how would you describe our sex life changing in the past year? And I'm talking about just like this week. It's just the two of us. How is it different now than what it was before we got into the lifestyle?
Ever since we got into the lifestyle, our sex, when you and I have sex, it's intense. Not necessarily physically intense, it's emotionally intense.
Right.
Oh my goodness. You've always looked at me with adoration in your eyes when we've made love, but the way you look at me now is different. Sometimes it almost scares me, the intensity that you put forth as you are having sex with me. You've made me cry, good cry, but you've made me cry. Sometimes when we have our reconnection sex and you're just so into it, and it's like you're trying to tell me something with your body and your eyes, and it's awesome. Woo.
Yeah. So it's gotten better, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a long-winded yes. It's gotten better.
Okay. Okay, you touched on this, and I tried to discourage you a minute ago. So communication. Now, it's a buzzword, and communication is a very subjective term. But again, can you be as specific as you can be? How do you know? We've both agreed that our communication has improved since we've been in the lifestyle. What are some outward examples of ways that you've noticed that?
Examples that are lifestyle related or life related?
No, just any kind of communication.
Well,
in the past year,
I think I can. As far as nonverbal communication goes, I think I've learned to read you better. When you are experiencing emotions with somebody, either with them or alongside them, that they're experiencing, as you get used to these new experiences in the lifestyle and having to process your spouse having sex with other people, and whether it's jealousy or just that jaw dropping, oh my God, what did I just see, or what did I just do? it's intense those first few times. If you don't share that with your partner, and even share the good stuff, like, you need to tell your partner that what you just saw was hot, because otherwise you're kind of leaving your partner hanging, so you have to tell the good and the bad. You can't keep it to yourself. And when somebody's struggling with trying to, come up with words to communicate that, you've got to read their body language to see, if there's something that, they're not necessarily holding out on, but they don't know how to get started, to get it to spew out of their mouth, so to speak.
Right.
So I think we're better at that, at looking at each other and saying, okay, what's going on? We need to talk.
Right. So on our walk today on the beach, we talked about 3 specific events that have occurred in our lives in the past year or so. In thinking of those events, have you noticed any communication differences in things like that? Or is it simply around our sex life?
No, Mr. and Mrs. Jones are a team. We are definitely unified. We've had some pretty serious family issues to deal with the past year. And, our family has needed us, and we maybe didn't handle things perfectly, but we handled them in unison. And we're definitely stronger together than we are individually.
Right.
And just that unified force has helped, the situations that we've been through. It's helped other people, have confidence that they can rely on us for assistance and moral support, and, whatever the case may be that they need. They know that that we're gonna stick together and see it through.
Right. Okay. So you feel like we're more of attacking the problem instead of each other, like teamwork more?
Yeah, and I just think naturally we're a partnership. I say it all the time. I'm your biggest fan. I'm your cheerleader, and I'll support you. When whatever decision you're trying to make, I'll give you honest feedback, and I'll support your decision, because that's what partners do.
Yeah, honest feedback. That's what wives are for, right?
Yes, dear.
Okay. Let's change the focus a little bit. In what ways have you noticed that I've changed in the past year?
I think you're much more aware of how I feel. Guys can be blockheads sometimes. And
No.
Yeah. You included. I hate to say that, honey. Yeah, all guys are blockheads. Some of you guys.
I like the word tater better.
You're taters too, but yeah. I think you're learning to read me better and not pretend there isn't a problem. I think you just go ahead and suck it up and ask me what's wrong, instead of like just going into a different room and pretending there's not steam coming out of my ears or whatever, whatever it is. So I think you're just much more perceptive and willing to talk things through instead of just hiding, pretending it didn't happen.
What about with other people? Like,
I think you're more confident with other people, and you're a little more outgoing than you used to be. You're much more confident around women. When we first got married, and a waitress would come to our table and give Mr. Jones a glass of iced tea, and then she'd come back. He would take 2 sips, and she'd come back, "Can I get you some more tea?" And I would be like, "Oh my gosh, she has a crush on you." And he would be like,
she was trained
Who?
well. Yeah.
Who? I'm like, that gorgeous girl that is taking care of us tonight. So yeah, you used to be kind of clueless. So I think you're a little bit more aware of that now.
I know this isn't supposed to be about me, but in response to that, I mean, I have this rubber stamp stamped across my forehead that says happily married.
Right.
And I'm naive. I mean, in work, I would do a lot of traveling, and I would always hear stories about, oh, you're going to get in trouble if you travel and you're on the road and you're away from home. And I never noticed, any kind of an opportunity to do something that would have betrayed our relationship. And so that was just the mindset that I have. And that, so it has allowed me to, to get out of that box. But
I love the story you told me. I don't know when it was. It was probably like last winter or this spring. It's been a while ago. Mr. Jones came home from work and he said, "You're not going to believe what happened today." And I said, "What?" And he said, "I was at Starbucks. There's a Starbucks in Mr. Jones's building down on the ground or the street level. And he'll go down there and get a refill of a cup of coffee like mid-morning or whatever." And he said that he was waiting in line at the Starbucks and he was talking to one of his coworkers, waiting in line. And he said this lady came in and checked him out. And I said, "And you noticed?" And he said, "Yeah, I actually noticed. She was checking me out." And I was like, "Oh, honey, I'm so proud of you."
No. I'm sorry, but I have to correct you.
Okay, go ahead and correct me.
So the reason I knew that she checked me out is because the coworker I was with was female. And she said, "You realize that girl just checked you out, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I noticed that." So I honestly didn't even know that.
But you acknowledged the fact.
I did. I came home.
Because you used to say, I don't know what you're talking about.
I didn't. Yeah, so make note of that out there, ladies. You need to be pretty obvious if you're interested in me. Okay. Enough about me. So let's shift to, when we first started, one of the things that we talked about a lot before we got into the lifestyle and before we started podcasting was our concerns about being found out. And I just want to know, generally speaking, now that we've been in the lifestyle for 1.5 years and we've been podcasting for 10 months now, where is your level of comfort with being found out compared to, and the reason I'm asking you this question is because just like it was for us, that's one of the biggest hurdles that we had to get beyond in order to admit that we were going to get into this lifestyle, is there's always that risk of being found out. And I imagine a lot of other people have the same concern. So where is your level of comfort, or do you have a level of comfort?
I'm only slightly less panicked about it now than I was a year ago.
Okay.
I do not want to be found out.
Well, that's a given.
I mean, I am comfortable enough now with the lifestyle because I don't want to be found out. I'm not getting ready to say that. But we have met so many wonderful people in the lifestyle. They're not these like icky key party swingers from the 1970s. And if you're a swinger from the 1970s, I'm sorry if I just said you were icky. But that's not the part of the lifestyle that we're entering. We are meeting intelligent, articulate, sexy, professional people that have similar families and careers that we have and are very, responsible people that don't want to be found out either.
Right.
I mean, it's not this seedy sub-society that I think a large part of society thinks it is.
Right.
However, I really don't want to be classified as part of it because our vanilla friends would not understand, because their perception of swingers is still that icky 1970s Leisure Suit Larry key party image that we all have in our minds.
Right.
Mr. Swapfu always talks about, well, what can we do to help the swing community, become, I guess, a better resource for the swinging community.
The Swapfus are podcasters.
Oh, yes, they are. They were our very first podcast.
Yes.
So, and I would love for mainstream America to understand what the lifestyle is all about, as far as that it's a marriage enhancer and not a marriage crusher, and I'm not cheating on my spouse and this and that and the other. So what would happen if our family and friends found out? I mean, we'd probably lose some friends. I think our family would be confused. I don't think we would be disowned from our family.
No.
I don't know. I don't want to go through that.
Right.
And the main reason I don't want to go through it is the added burden that we have of this podcast. Our conversations are out there on the internet and on a lot of people's iPhones. And they listen to it, as they're traveling to work every day, and they're listening to, stories about our sex life and our relationship. And, that's extremely personal and private. And do I want my 2 daughters listening to that? No.
Right. But there's a part of it would be just be general embarrassment, because you wouldn't want your kids to overhear what you're doing in your bedroom anyway.
Right.
But beyond that, though, the acceptance in your mind that this is a good and a positive thing. How does that, and you touched on it when you said the people that we've met, how does that fit into the whole attitude of, you know what, now if I'm found out, here's the conversation I can have with somebody so that they better understand what this is all about. Have you thought about that?
As far as who found out?
Well, I mean, if anybody found out, let's just say our good friends found out. A year ago or 8 months ago, either way, it's going to be a little bit of an embarrassment, because they're going to perceive us as one way. But now that we've got experience in it, and like you just said, the positive things that have come out of it, are you better able to maybe say, well, let me tell you about this life. Let me tell you what it's done for our relationship. Let me tell you about, where I'm headed?
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you that. Maybe if we would have been discovered right when we first started swinging, I might have the trauma of having people find out and call me out on it might have made me want to stop.
Right.
Would I stop swinging if our friends and family found out?
That's a good question. Let me ask you that question. Go ahead.
I don't know that I can answer that question.
Right.
I'm less likely to stop now. I guess it just depends on the ugliness of the situation.
Right.
We might need to kind of take a break to kind of regroup.
Right.
And figure out what's going on. But I do think, like you just said, I'm much better equipped to try to explain it to them.
Right.
You don't explain the gory details of your sex life to your friends or family anyway. I mean, nobody does, whether you're in the swinging lifestyle or not. I do want our girls to know that we have a healthy marriage and a healthy sex life. But do I want them to know how our sex life is healthy? No, it's none of their business.
Right.
They just need to know that we're happy and have a healthy relationship.
Okay, I know this is a little bit of this question I'm just going to have to ask. If I came to you for a legitimate reason and I said, honey, this has been a wild ride, but I'm just either whatever, I'm burnt out on it, or I'm not comfortable doing it anymore, or whatever. If I came to you and said, I think it's time for us to get out of the lifestyle, what would your thoughts be to a statement like that from me?
Well, if you came to me out of the blue, it wouldn't be the, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get to play with other guys or other women anymore. It would be like, what in the world's going on between you and I?
Right.
That we are having to have this conversation. So my first thought would be to protect our relationship. And if that involved pulling out of the lifestyle to protect what you and I have, that would be the only option.
Right.
So yeah, the lifestyle's fun, and yeah, it's a wild ride. Is it a necessary part of our relationship? No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, that's the answer I was hoping for. Okay. All right. I want you to think of one or two men specifically that you felt like that you've connected with the most in the past year. Okay?
Got it.
So first of all, what made you choose, I'm just going to say two, just what made you choose those two?
Well, gosh, it's interesting because the two that just jumped in my mind are completely different in many, many areas. So let me explain. So one of the men I chose is a few years older than me. The other man I chose is a few years younger than me. So there's a pretty big age range between the two men. They don't look anything alike. They don't have similar personalities at all. I soft swap with one of them and I full swap with the other one. But what they do have in common that I find intriguing and attractive is that they're both extremely intelligent men and they're very respectful men. And the icing on the cake, which I like the icing best of all, is they are madly in love with their wives. And I really, really like both of their wives, both sexually. You know, they're both beautiful women that I've enjoyed playing with, but I like them as people. They they both have beautiful relationships and are just fun to be around.
So to expand on that question a little bit, now that you know who they are and why you are attracted to them, now that you have a level of comfort with them, how do you foresee potential play times with them in the future? Because in the background on this question is we've just full swapped really recently, only twice. And, you know, to get to that part of it, it took us a while. Now that we're there, what other sort of evolution in the form of, and I know that you tell me that you don't fantasize, but now that you're comfortable with that and you're comfortable with those men, you know, how could your playtime with them expand or continue to grow?
I can only, well, you know, I know you're constantly asking me and our listeners and yourself about experiencing growth in the lifestyle. And, you know, as far as growing in the lifestyle, I don't necessarily see growth as like new things we've done that I can check off the list, you know, so I don't really feel a need for that. I'm very happy where I am. Do I want to full swap with the couple that we only soft swap with that I'm thinking about? Well, only if the connection is there the next time we see them, if we even see them again. I mean, I imagine we will someday. And if they're ready for it, I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, you know, I was really hoping next time we get to, you know, actually, you know, I would really want to have intercourse with this guy. That I don't feel that way. Mm-hmm. I just want to have fun with them because they're fun to be around and they're great to talk to. And they're both just, you know, these gorgeous people that I can have fun with at any level. So I'm not really looking to climb the ladder of craziness of, you know, sexual acts I can perform in the lifestyle. Maybe that's boring. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, that's your answer. That's what it is. So, and, you know, okay, so you mentioned growth, and yes, I am always looking for ways to grow and things to reflect upon for growth. So having said that, we are doing things now. Let's say specifically, we've full swapped a couple times now. Excuse me. A year ago, we weren't doing that. A year ago, we didn't know if that would happen again or when it would happen again.
Right.
The year before that, we didn't even know if we were going to get in the lifestyle. It was just more of a curiosity.
I was worried about taking my bathing suit off at Desire.
Yeah, right. So we've got 2 years of growth. And when I say growth, I mean at the beginning of the year, we couldn't imagine doing something. And a year later, we were doing it. And the second year, we couldn't really imagine doing something. And at the end of the second year, we're doing something different. So
Right.
looking ahead, what will we be talking about a year from now that we're not doing now, if anything, in the lifestyle?
I feel like you're pushing me in a direction. So,
No, I'm not. I'm not pushing you. I'm really not.
well, okay. So what I don't foresee myself being interested in doing is separate room play.
You talked about that. Right. Okay.
Is that what you were thinking that I
No,
was going to
because
say?
you already mentioned that. I was thinking about things that, what are we going to be talking about a year from now? That, wow, this thing that, and it doesn't even have to be an act. It could be, like right now, for instance, we rarely play the first time we meet a couple.
Right.
Then the people that we've full swapped with, it's only after we've soft swapped with them 2 or 3 times.
Right.
So it could be anything. It could be a level of comfort with strangers that we don't know. It could be visiting a new place. It could be trying to flip vanillas. Whatever it is. I just wanted to give you some ideas to give you an idea of where
I think everything's going to be situational. I don't know. You're right. We are getting more comfortable meeting new couples. So, maybe, and I think we're learning that while, being a full swap couple, we say, that's going to be situational. Maybe we will feel more comfortable meeting somebody and just going ahead and enjoying full swap with them the first time out, because, I don't want to say it's not that big of a deal anymore, but we've been through it and we enjoy it just like we enjoy all other areas of sex with people. And and you and I are coming through it unscathed. That's why I guess that's why I say it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Because you and I are, emotionally managing it well.
Right.
And there's no jealousy. There's no, oh, it looked like you had more fun than I had. That's a bummer. And I mean, I guess we've been lucky because, the couples that we choose to be with, I think we have a fairly equal level of attraction. So,
okay. Another question, and we're almost finished. What about negative things? What, since we've been in the lifestyle or over the past year, are there any negative things or situations or occurrences or playtimes or dates or anything that you can think of that you would say was a negative experience?
Well, having something be a learning experience and having something be a negative experience, I think are two different things. Sometimes we get into situations that aren't as fun as other times because we're out of our comfort zone, or it's not really the right couple, or the event isn't what we thought it would be for, whatever reason, the location or the type of people that are there, or it's just too big or too loud or whatever. Those give us, some negative experiences. But as far as like a negative experience between you and I think we're doing a good job of avoiding those. We keep telling all of our listeners that we're kind of slow and we're not very brave. And that, that may not be as sexy as exciting and exciting as it could be. But, I think that we're being smart, at least smart for you and me, so everybody else has to find their own level of smart.
Right. Okay, so last question is, for those people out there who are just now getting into this or thinking about getting into it, is it worth it? Are you glad we made the decision to give this a try?
Yes, it's worth it. It's worth it just because of the way you and I respond to each other now. I think we see each other as, I don't know, you're very precious to me now. I think I understand what a gift I have in you. And, I don't know if I'm experiencing that because I'm watching you with other women and I'm like, hey, enjoy that while you can, because he's coming home with me, so I don't know if that's it or if it's just you take such good care of me when we're at lifestyle events. I always feel kind of sorry for the guys. And I have to say, it's not just you. Most of the men in the lifestyle do an extremely good job of taking care of their wives. You guys can't drink too much because somebody's got to stay sober. If both of you are drinking too much, then, that's just a recipe for a bad decision. And, so you keep an eye on me and you make sure the people we play with are going to be, people that we're going to feel comfortable with and that you're going to trust to be with me. Because, let's face it, women are somewhat vulnerable when you get into sexual situations. So you do a really good job of, I guess, screening the people that we play with. And I think you have very good intuition that way.
Mm. What did I miss? Anything that I didn't ask you or what are your closing thoughts? Because I kind of put you on the spot. We got into a conversation when we were on the beach the other night, and I started asking you questions, and so this is really unrehearsed. But before these are all the questions I want to ask. Is there anything else that you wanted to say to either couples out there or ladies out there, or to me to kind of summarize what this whole episode is about?
Well, I think it's a big decision to enter the lifestyle, and it's risky. It really is risky. I don't think that you can sugarcoat that. If you value your marriage and you're willing to open it up, that's a big decision, and every couple has to make that decision for themselves. Just because you listen to a podcast or you watch a TV show or you read a book or you read all this craziness on Reddit or whatever your source is for gaining information on what the lifestyle's about and what it feels like to be part of that lifestyle, you have to make that decision on your own and know that you have to, be thoughtful about the steps that you take as a couple, and you have to make sure that you stay side by side with your partner and that one of you doesn't get ahead of the other. I think that's the biggest, when we meet couples, the biggest red flag that goes up isn't that the couple doesn't love each other. You can tell the couple loves each other, but sometimes we run into couples where one spouse will be way ahead of the other spouse as far as their willingness to get involved in the lifestyle. And it's kind of, it's sad because they get so enthused about it, they forget to look over their shoulder and make sure their partner's by their side, and the partner, will be emotionally standing a couple steps back with these huge deer in the headlight eyes, like, oh my gosh, what are we getting ready to do? And, maybe that partner wants to be in the lifestyle just as much, but they need to take it at a different pace. So, you got to go at the pace of the slowest person in the room,
right?
Whether it's you and your partner or whether you're talking about the pace of the four people together. If you can find that easygoing pace of the slowest person in the room, and everybody kind of sets that as the standard, then it's fun.
Right. So thank you for answering my questions.
Well, thank you for asking me.
I'm an introspective
Yes, we've heard that
person.
Yes.
And I love talking to people that we meet in the lifestyle about their stories and who they are. But of course, since you're the most important person in my life, it means a whole lot to hear you talk about these things too. So thank you for that. And I know in the future, you may turn the tables on me. We haven't talked about that yet. So, but I will say that, I certainly appreciate you more now, especially now that I see you with other people and in other situations and other men attracted to you and other women attracted to you, and the way that you handle yourself and all of the things that you've talked about in the past hour, as far as how we've grown, it's evident to me. And I feel, again, after 30 years, just fortunate that, it was kind of dumb luck. We are really fortunate that we found each other when we did, and that we were compatible and that we worked through this. Now, it did take commitment and a lot of work, but there are a lot of people that we meet that, weren't as fortunate. And
right.
Anyway, thank you for that, Mrs. Jones. And I just wanted to say I love you.
I love you too, honey.
All right. Well, so hopefully you enjoyed that conversation. I know Mrs. Jones enjoyed it, right, dear?
Yes. Felt a little bit on the hot seat. I guess the title is worthy of some of the anxiety I felt, but I think it was pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about myself.
Well, you can always decide to get me back someday.
Yeah, don't worry.
Turn the tables on me at some point in time.
You know what was really amazing is Mr. Jones did that without notes. He didn't really plan it out. It was so spontaneous. And I couldn't do that. I'm going to have to sit down and compile a list before I put you on the hot seat, darling.
Yes. Well, okay, let's get to our snapshots. So we have been promising to read snapshots, and we are a little bit delinquent. We've received a few of them. We're going to read 2 of them tonight, and I'm going to read one. Mrs. Jones will read one, and then we'll share snapshots with us. So, but before we start, please, back to the email, feel free to send us your snapshots. And remember, a snapshot is just a little snippet from a lifestyle experience that you've had, and it can be funny. It can be romantic, it can be sexy, it can be whatever you want it to be. So you call it your own and just try to keep it, a paragraph or 2 and send it to us, and we'll be happy to read it. So I will go first. We have an email snapshot from B, the husband, and S, the wife, from Syracuse, New York. So here we go. This is funny for us. Embarrassing for another unnamed couple. We played with this couple in a group setting before, and now it was time for a one-on-one session with just them. We met them for drinks, and things moved to the hotel. He was really, and this is all, really is in all caps, really attracted to us. Things progressed to the bed, and he pulled an American Pie. And I had to stop and think about that movie for a minute. But you
actually went on YouTube and pulled up that scene, didn't you?
I did. I watched the scene again. He pulled an American Pie. He came before he even put his penis in. Poor guy was totally embarrassed, and S was like, "What the fuck?" I figured out what happened, so I put a rush on things. What a gentleman. Funny stuff happens in the lifestyle. I guess funny from one point of view, but maybe a little bit embarrassing. And I can kind of relate to
You can kind of relate to that.
I can, but
some guys have trouble getting hard. They have performance anxiety. You're the exact opposite.
Right.
You're just let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of can feel for the guy, the American Pie guy, but I'm getting better at controlling myself. Oh my gosh, that would be embarrassing or funny, depending, or frustrating.
I think it would be frustrating, both for the lady that missed out.
I wonder if he had
the guy.
I wonder if he had a condom on.
I don't know. You think that just slowed him down a little bit? Maybe he hadn't even got to that point yet. The poor guy. Tragic.
Okay, well, you have one to read too. And Mrs. Jones, you're so sexy in your bra and your panties and your reading glasses and your headphones.
Thank you, honey. I love you too.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I swear. Okay, so this couple says, we are new to the whole swinging thing. We had been talking a lot about it and decided to take a step forward and make an SLS account and start meeting people. While browsing SLS one day, I noticed a posting for a new nude pool party that was relatively close to us and asked my wife if she would like to go. While we were both a bit hesitant about doing it, we decided that we wanted to go and be around a bunch of sexy nude people. We figured, hey, we can go and have a nice time and maybe meet a nice couple. Worst case scenario, we get all hot and bothered looking at the hot, sexy people, and we can have some steamy sex together. So we got our invitation to the party, found a babysitter, and eagerly awaited for the day to come. Both of us were very excited about dipping our feet into this whole swinging thing. My wife got a cute outfit to wear. We packed a bag with all kinds of sexy things in it, and we got on the road. We pulled into the driveway of the residence and noticed a woman getting a small infant out of a car. My wife and I looked at each other and she says, this has got to be the wrong address. She was, of course, correct. So, not a great start to our first sexy swinging experience. However, we finally found the right house, and my wife tells me that she now needs a few minutes of sitting in the car. She's nervous. Once we made it out of the car, we both immediately realized that we have made a terrible mistake. Now, I have an amazing ability to find beauty in pretty much any woman. I can overlook a lot of faults that I think most men couldn't. That being said, I was having a terribly difficult time finding anyone that either I or my wife would have been interested in. We ended up sitting down with some people. They took us in and we ended up chatting with them for the rest of the day. Night came, vodka was imbibed, clothing came off, and my wife and I were ready to have some fun. We had heard that there was a playroom, and we decided that we wanted to get to a more sexy place, so we asked where it was. So we were pointed in the direction of an old rundown trailer and tentatively made our way towards it. I'm wearing just a
trailer. Did you say trailer?
I said trailer.
Okay.
An old rundown trailer.
Okay. Well, you could have just said trailer. Go ahead.
Okay. So the husband was just wearing a pair of shorts and his wife was in, well, nothing. She's stunningly gorgeous in clothing and amazingly hot without anything on. So needless to say, I was ready to have some fun. We walk over to the building, aka trailer. So we walk over to the building, open the door, and step inside for our first taste of people engaging in group play. What we expected to see when we walked in was a nice room, couches, maybe a few beds, and some people having super hot sex. What we actually saw was a writhing mass of naked bodies in a corner, humping like, well, I'm not really sure how to describe it. Imagine the most unpleasant thing you can, then overlay that with people having sex. Add in a touch of mildew smell, plus an American flag do-rag or two. Look up do-rag if you don't know what that is. With a pinch of bad music.
Quite the ingredients there.
I know. This is what we saw. Needless to say, my wife and I turned around after a few minutes. We felt that it would be bad form to go running out of the building, trying desperately to remove our eyes from their sockets. And we made our way to a trampoline.
Trampoline. I wonder if the trampoline was supposed to be a sex bed.
I don't know. That actually might be kind of fun.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Kind of like zero gravity almost, you know?
Yeah.
Having never made sweet, passionate love, or any kind of love for that matter, on a trampoline, we jumped at the opportunity. Ha ha. We ended up having spectacular sex on a trampoline under a clear sky filled with stars. It was actually quite lovely.
Oh my gosh. I mean, so you have these words in a sexy story. A rundown trailer. Mildew. Do-rags.
American flag do-rags. Yes.
Trampolines. Mm-hmm. Only in the lifestyle.
Sweaty, humping bodies. Yeah. A pinch of bad music. Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Well,
now, the amazing thing is that they were pretty resilient because they did not run screaming from the lifestyle.
Right. And that's a testament to them.
The email went on to say, so we just kind of shook it off and try again.
Right. And I think, you and I kind of have that philosophy too. There's been a couple of times where things haven't gone exactly the way that we thought.
Mr. Jones, if you would have taken me to a party where I was supposed to have sex in an old stinky trailer, that probably might have ended our lifestyle career.
You think so?
I am in complete amazement of these people.
Yeah.
Yay them.
Yeah. Good for you guys.
Yeah,
and
right.
Thank you. Thank you to, let me see, this was A and F for sending that snapshot. I think thank you. Yeah. Puts things in perspective.
I think that was excellent
entertainment.
So
as bad as you think you have it, just remember that.
That's snapshot. Right. You could always go to a house party in a stinky mildew trailer.
Right. Okay. So I guess it's my snapshot now.
Yes.
Yeah. This is kind of an audio snapshot.
It is.
Had an audio snapshot. Yeah. So last weekend, when we were playing with the couple that we just described in segment 1, we got to the point where just before we full swapped, and I had gone down on her and she had gone down on me, and we were kissing, and she's such a good kisser. And I took a little bit I came up for air, and I looked at her and I said, "So, what are you interested in?" And now keep in mind, this lady is very classy, very beautiful, very intelligent. We had great conversation. She's very sexy. And so anyway, we get to this point, and I said, "So what do you want to do next?" And she says, "You want to fuck?" I said, "I'll be right back." So
I did not hear that.
Yeah, you didn't hear that.
Whoa.
Yeah, you want to fuck? So that audio snapshot, yes. The answer was yes. And I raced.
I knew that.
I raced to get a condom, and that's what we did.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was that was quite an invitation. And I think it was just so hot the way that she said it, because I didn't really expect those words to come out of her mouth. It was, I thought maybe, should we discuss full swap? But no, it was like, "You want to fuck?" I said, "Yep."
Wow.
So that's my snapshot, Mrs.
Because
Jones.
we had kind of talked, we had talked about our boundaries ahead of time. So we knew that full swap was on the table for all 4 of us. So,
yeah, right.
So, good for you to make sure that everybody was still on that same page before you grabbed the condom.
I think I may have grabbed 2 and thrown 1 to him, because I was, I wanted to make sure that.
Well, he had some. I don't know where his were.
Well, no, but she gave the invitation to me, but I don't know that the 2 of you had a chance to talk about it before I was up and looking for condoms. So
we caught up quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
so that was your snapshot, huh?
Yeah, that was audio snapshot.
So my snapshot actually started back in July when we had dinner with them up in D.C. So we had a lovely dinner, a great meal, great conversation. They had been to Desire before too. So we spent a lot of the evening talking about our Desire experiences. So that was some fun, sexy talk. And we were kind of trying, we got to that point at the end of the meal where we were trying to decide if the 4 of us were looking forward to taking our relationship to the next level. So we finally started getting to some sexy talk. And I can't remember how it came up, but we were talking about, I guess, our style of play, and whether we were soft swap or full swap, or did we like it fast and rough or slow and sensual, or kind of what our personalities were, I guess. And the gentleman looked at me and he said, I like to take it slow and sensual, and I like to make sure that I have time to explore every inch of a woman's body. And he said that looking right at me when we were at dinner, and it just knocked all the air out of my lungs. I was just like, whoa, I like that idea. That was so hot. So, and I never told him how much I appreciated him saying that.
You mentioned it to me after we left dinner that night.
Right.
Yeah.
But so now, 2 months fast forward.
Right.
And we finally are with them and actually have the opportunity to be intimate with them. And we were playing the dumb card game.
Right.
And I think, who was it? Was it you or the other wife that drew the card about having to say something? What's the sexiest thing? What's the sexiest thing somebody's ever said to you, in a group play situation or whatever? So I think one of you two drew the card, and I said, well, I want to answer that card too. And so I told everybody that, what he had said to me 2 months prior was one of the sexiest things anybody had ever said to me. And I was kind of glad to get that off my chest. And
yeah. So did he explore every inch of your body?
It was a good first start. I think he made significant progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
good.
both downstairs with me sprawled across the love seat, and then upstairs in the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun.
I think the message they sent us after that evening was that they felt really good about the entire evening.
And I did too.
Yeah.
It's nice to find lifestyle friends that you feel like you don't have to try so hard with. And,
right.
And we've been fortunate. We're starting to get quite a nice handful of couples that we have a nice comfort level with.
And we're getting to the point where we're not so worried about, our boundaries as much. They're expanding, and we're
right.
a whole lot
So hopefully we're more fun to be around.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, but you mentioned when we were at dinner with them, you don't want to keep going to dinner with people.
Right.
I mean, the first dinner's good. You want to get to know somebody, but after that, really, do you want to play or you?
You should know by then.
Yeah, you should know by then.
Are you willing to take it a step further, or
right.
Otherwise just kind of cut your losses and try to find another couple where you do feel more of a connection with?
Right. So those are our snapshots, and thank you for our 2 listeners who sent us snapshots, and we have a couple of more that stored up for next month,
yep.
And we would love to read more. So please send us your snapshots and that kind of gets us right into the end of our podcast, where if you want to contact us, do so through our Cassidy community. Or the best way to reach us, instead of leaving a comment on our website, which is fine too, but send us an email at wegottathing@gmail.com, and that's wegottathing@gmail.com. And hopefully, if you're listening to us on your phone or your iPad, you should be able to touch the not the icon. What is the Jessica Rabbit? The Jessica Rabbit logo, our logo. You should be able to touch it, and it'll flip over. And right there, the hyperlink, you should see wegottathing@gmail.com. So if you didn't know that, that's the easiest way. You don't have to remember it. You can just touch the Jessica Rabbit, and she'll flip over conveniently. and then you can just touch the hyperlink to our email and send us an email while you're thinking about it. So we'd love to hear from you. And you can also leave us a comment on our website, which is wegottathing.com. You can follow us on Twitter at wegottathing, and our Cassidy community is continuing to grow. So please, if you're on Cassidy, we killed our SLS account and had a somber celebration of no more SLS.
I think Mr. Jones was skipping around the house.
Yeah, but you know how many people email us and they say we hate SLS too? So it's like empowering.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So anyway, join our Cassidy community, and don't forget to review us on iTunes. That's really one of the... Look, this is a free podcast. We're not asking you for any money. So please, if you would take the time to leave us a review on iTunes, that would be great.
It does. It really helps kind of push us to the top, so we're easier to find.
Right. So what did we forget? Anything, Mrs. Jones?
Well, we do have a house party coming up in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. So, and this is hosted by a couple that have invited us to a house party before.
Right.
We've gone once, and then they invited us again, and we were at the beach.
Right.
So we weren't able to go. So luckily they kept us on the invitation list, and we're going in a couple of weeks.
Well, you know what? They're on SLS.
Uh-oh.
And so before I closed our SLS account, I sent him an email and I said, hey, please write our email address down because you're not going to find us on SLS. And he did. He sent us an email. So
good. So he went to extra trouble to invite us to the party.
Yes.
So we are very excited about going to that because they do an amazing job.
Yeah.
Great hosts, great people.
Yeah. We're looking forward to that.
Yes. And we have friends from Desire that are coming into town for like a family wedding.
Oh, right.
That same weekend.
Right.
And we are going to get together with them and probably hit some wineries or something because they're from Florida.
Yes.
So
they're the couple that we talked about in our Desire episode that did body shots.
Yes.
Off of she and Mrs. Jones.
Yes. So we have a nice connection with them. So we're really looking forward to catching up with them. They are wonderful people.
Yes. So we're going to try to get some more. We were talking about that today. Now that kind of our summer is over, we need to get our lifestyle calendar moving
we've
forward.
kind of let it kind of settle down, and we got to get things moving.
Yeah, and I think we may have a house party in our future.
Yes.
I mean, I think we're getting to the point now where we've hosted a few people. We have an empty nest. We have a few extra bedrooms. So, or we could do your business idea of starting a lifestyle bed and breakfast.
I know. I said when I grow up, maybe we could open a lifestyle bed and breakfast, because, so many of our lifestyle friends still have kids at home, so they cannot host people at their home. And Mr. Jones and I love to host people at our home, but we do not necessarily live close to our lifestyle friends, so it's inconvenient for them to have to schlep all the way, out to our house. So the only other option is to meet at a hotel, which is certainly fine, but it's not always as warm and as inviting as somebody's home goes. It's just more relaxing
to be here.
So I said, wouldn't a lifestyle bed and breakfast be amazing?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
It would be a place that would cater to lifestyle, so that you could actually have the home set up for, a little play area, and then you'd have a room for people to sleep in, and you could, have all the amenities there waiting for them instead of a sterile hotel room.
Right. So let us know what you think about that idea.
Except I don't want to have to run it, because then we would be busy every weekend and we wouldn't get to play.
Yeah, I know, that's true. So anyway, we will see you all again next month. And thanks for listening. We are Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and we got a thing.
What's your thing? We've been podcasting for a year. Why are you just now telling me that there's a right and a left and how to laugh in a microphone?
Oh, Mrs. Jones.
I'm just the sexy voice, honey. I am not the technology person.